When I got to 16 years, I threw my Bible in the trash. It's just like the movies. You walk down the range, 6 ranges high.
Before we get to the prison part, what kind of trouble did you get into?
Beat up a pop machine because it took my money. I don't even like cussing in front of women. Here I am out robbing people.
You would be back there again, probably until you died.
You know, if they'd have said 5 or 7, I'd have been, I've done that before. Knife, and I lay it on the table and I say, give me the money out of the cash register. They laughed at me. They thought I was kidding.
Whoa. Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. And we get to do an interview today, one we've been looking forward to, and finally made happen. It was on my end. It was my bad, but we're glad to have him. His name is Larry Thompson, and Larry wrote this book, Reentry Realities. And we're going to talk about this book. We're going to talk about his life because to me, it was inspirational after I first met Larry. And he told me about this, and we talked a little bit about our stories. I was like, yeah, we got to talk. This is good stuff. And Larry Thompson joins us now. Larry, good morning. How are you, brother?
Good morning. Doing great today.
Yeah, a couple of old guys with white goatees getting together today.
Yeah, absolutely. In our prime.
Yeah. I'm thinking I'm late prime, but we're both trying to keep it together. So
that's right.
Best place I think that I want to start is let's go back in your life, in your going back to your childhood, and tell me a little bit, where you grew up, how you grew up, and what it was like as a kid.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Akron, Ohio. My mother divorced my father when I was 3 due to his alcoholism. And she worked all the time. She would not go on welfare. So I was a latchkey child, basically, and often left with babysitters for long periods of time. And I became real high strung, very lonely in childhood. I was held back in 2nd grade, and I remember the 2nd grade teacher coming to our house to have lunch with my mother. They did those things back then. And she told her, we're going to hold Larry back because he's over emotional and he doesn't respond well in groups and his confidence is low. Well, that's typical for somebody that's growing up without a father and an incomplete family and basically being raised by himself, except when food's cooked. And but what I heard from the teacher was there's something wrong with Larry. Larry's not where he should be, because that was the message that I felt my fatherhood abandonment said to me. So it would set me up for the rest of my life to try to prove my value, my worth, my potential, not really realizing those things are innate in each of us, and we don't have to earn those. We don't have to perform or achieve to be valuable, worthwhile, and just good people. So I started doing drugs in the street, smoking marijuana at age 13, probably, running the streets with anybody that would have me. And I spent I quit high school, and I didn't think I was smart enough to complete it. And then I just ran the streets. I always worked because I wanted money. If I wanted money, I had to work. So I started working at a very young age, delivering papers, sweeping out the barber shop and the shoe shine shop, and just anywhere they would let me in for a few hours. So I did develop a healthy work habit. But by the time I was 28, I had 2 failed marriages and was on my way to Mansfield Correctional Institute for my first prison number.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's I don't want to do the whole snapshot yet.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good spot. So were you looking for friends? Were you just searching for a connection with with something with a group of kids when you were young, you're talking about, and you're end up looking in, the friends we make, we don't realize it until we're older, is, how big the 5 people that are around you matter, when you're
right.
that age. We're told that, but we don't really realize it till later.
No, we don't. And, one of the things that I say in my first book is that we are intrinsically social beings. You're going to fill that spot with something. We have a basic innate need to be part of a group of people, to have that sense of security, belonging, acceptance, identity. These all things all come from our circle. And what you was talking about there, the 5 closest people, one of my multiple degrees today, for somebody who thought they couldn't even finish high school, is neuroscience. And what neuroscience tells us is that our brain activity and our body chemistry will balance out relatively equal to the 5 closest people we associate with.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, as a writer, this is a matter of design. Because if you think about everything from tying your shoes to making a good cup of coffee, somebody has taught us.
Right.
And so we are basically, as hard as it is for us to accept, we are defined by those who love us and those who fail to love us. But as adults, we're not victims. Too many times we play the victim role, and we make ourselves victims more than anybody could. But as adults, we're responsible for taking a look at our lives and saying what needs fixed, what needs corrected. But again, we all have blind spots. So there's things I see about me that you don't. There's things you see about me that I don't. There's things we both see. And yet there's things that are yet to be discovered as a result of relationship. So having people in our lives mirrors back to us our value, our worth, our potential. And if we're hanging around people that don't validate that don't believe in it either, they just can further confirm what we all believe as a group. That we're misfits, we're not worthwhile. If we're going to make it, we're going to have to manipulate, trick, deceive, disguise. These are maladaptive survival behaviors that we learn in place of healthy life management skills. And it's just a matter of not being taught those things. And we fill it in however we can to survive. They're maladaptive because they really don't help us survive. But they help us adapt to just basically make it in life. And so, relationships are very important.
And in the example that you gave with the teacher, that set a certain expectation, and that was a low expectation. And basically that is, they've had studies that have proven this, that when kids are told this, whether kids are told that they're expected to do well or whether they're expected to do poorly, they live up to that expectation. You fulfilled that expectation.
Yes. That's absolutely. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The first 7 years of your life determine your basic personality to an unbelievable degree. And a lot of this is because of the lower brainwave activity that goes on in the younger years. Your brain and body is literally an archive or record of your complete past. Everything you experience is filtered through that. So if I believe negative, I'm going to look for negative. I'm going to look for verification of what I believe. Today I work at a treatment center, and someone will say, well, this is wrong with this place, this is wrong, that's wrong. And I just hold out my hand and I say, there's 10,000 negative things you could find wrong here today. However, there's 10,000 positive things you could find here today. So who's creating your victimhood? You are. You know, it's a choice of what we choose to look at. I just bought a new pickup truck. Man, you wouldn't believe how many pickup trucks I've seen on the road today. It's how it works. It's human. It's human design. You know.
Yeah, your reticular activating system is what it's called. And yeah, because you know, our brain processes 70,000 things a day. Well, we can't focus on 70,000 different things, but we have a few things like this. You know, whenever I get a new vehicle and I see the new car tag on the back, or somebody just got a new vehicle and they have the 30-day tag, I see 30-day tags everywhere. Everybody just got a new car.
Yes. So we look for that verification in all aspects of life. People's moods, their responses, their opportunities. You know, one of the things I tell the people that I teach is life is full of challenges. Adulthood is defined by either going into a challenge, being in the middle of a challenge, or coming out of a challenge your entire adult life. Now, what's the difference here? Well, if I invite that challenge, I call it a challenge. If I don't invite that challenge, I call it a problem. But it's not a problem. It's a challenge. Life is asking you to step up and become more than you were. Let me stretch you, grow you, and prepare you for the next bigger challenge. So the only time a challenge becomes a problem is when I refuse the challenge. Then it becomes a problem. When I don't deal with the problem, it becomes trouble. When I don't deal with the trouble, it becomes catastrophe, like incarceration and many other things that you just got to survive the storm now. There's no way to correct it. So I teach people today, you know, welcome that challenge. Allow yourself to go through it. You know, not all of them are welcome, but they're all offer growth. You know, my book, I say there's only two ways to live your life: by design or by default. There's no other choices. I've challenged groups for years to give me a life by default means you've got no blueprint. You live without purpose. You see life as an accident. You live by desire and impulse. You see chaos and disorder, and you have no foundation for your life. The end result is you end up either a predator or a parasite. There's only two centers a human being can operate from: principle-centered or self-centered. There's no other options. And most of my life, I've lived self-centered. You know, what I want. You know, there's no pattern, no intention. I live by, if it feels good, do it. Then there's only three things you can represent to your community. You'll either be a predator, a parasite, or a partner. Those are the only three things you can represent to your community, and they are determined by if you live by design or default. Principle-centered or self-centered will determine which of those you represent to your community. And so overcoming the idea of being a victim is central to human development, to live in the best life possible. You know, we're not victims of life. We're more often than victims of our own perception.
Yes.
And that's what I had to learn.
Now, when you were in your youth, what, before we get to the prison part, what kind of trouble did you get into? Was it fights? Did it have to do with the starting into the drugs when you were a teenager? What was the initial entry into, doing dumb shit that not only affected you, but affected other people?
Well, I did a lot of things I never got caught for. But the drinking and alcohol and whatever drugs were available, I didn't care what it was, I'd do it. But luckily, I never did heroin or fentanyl or stuck a needle in my arm ever. But if it was a pill I could pop or something I could snort or drink, I'll put it in front of me. And then I'm out breaking into buildings, snooping around, smashing out car windows, stealing hubcaps, getting in fights. So it started very young age. And the alcohol and the drugs and the anger of abandonment fueled that whole life.
So then, prior to incarceration, the first time, prior to going to Mansfield, what was going on in your life right at that time before that happened, and then what did happen that was your first trip in?
So one of the things that I teach in the book about coming out of a recovery center or out of prison is that you move from a state of dependence to independence and then on to interdependence. Now, the people that get incarcerated or reincarcerated are usually in the dependent stage. They live at home, they live with their girlfriend, they're collecting government funds, they have no real direction. Well, without any investment, you're likely to do something wrong. And then when you get a state of independence, you're still vulnerable because you don't have that interdependent connection of support keeps you focused in the right direction. So the highest level of chance of success is to reach a state of interdependence. So for me, at that time, to answer your question, I was living with a girl who was living in subsidized apartments. She got government subsidies, and whatever money I made, we just blew it all on drugs and partying. Relationships were based on if it felt good and she was pretty and sex. There was never a foundation to any of them. I was working, but taking the drugs and the cocaine, and I had a guy that owed me some money for doing drywall work, and I did a bunch of volumes and went and shot up his office building. It was closed. I used to live in an apartment in the back, but this is the insanity things. I just shot holes in the wall, and I was down at a bar my friend owned. I was parked too close to a stop sign, and the cops pulled up, and they come in the bar and actually asked whose car that was. I went out and opened the door, and that pistol was laying in the back. It was his in the box because I had helped him move, the guy that owned the drywall company. But then that night I'd shot up the apartment building. They took the pistol and said, if there's no problem, well, you won't hear anything. Well, not only was I a prior felon, but he reported the office being shot up. And I got 6 months flat time. And I was sent to Old Mansfield. And I realized then, I never wore a set of handcuffs in my life if I didn't have drugs or alcohol in me. But that getting from my head to my heart was the longest 18 inches that took till I was 45. And I was 28 when I went in the first time. But I at least had that sense of enlightenment.
But you had a prior...
Today, I can drink a few beers today. And I don't do drugs. Mm-hmm. I went to AA for 15 years, and they said you can never drink again. And I had an inclination that when I went through and got a degree in neuroscience, that might not be actually true. I wouldn't recommend it to most addicts, but it's about a level of maturing out of that addiction. I don't use to escape. I don't use to numb myself. It's a social thing today, like it is for everybody else. Therefore, I can have a couple beers, and sometimes I pour out the second one.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I can't do that. I've been sober for 17 years, and I can't risk that. It's not worth it to me. Yeah. I fucked up for 39, 40 years trying every different way to drink. And it's not that important to me to want to try it again or to try to figure it out. And, I always tell people, I could have one or two right now, but I'm going to be thinking about it. I'm going to be thinking about stopping at one or two and that I need to stop. Right. But then after I accomplish that a couple times, then the third one's going to sneak in and the fourth one. And I never knew if I was going to black out on number 7 or number 14. I just didn't know. And so that just doesn't, I know where that road would lead for me for sure. I absolutely most people just could not do it.
I would not recommend it. I just had coffee with the judge and senior federal judge and federal agent friend of mine this morning. And, we were talking about that, how for 4 years now, I've been out with them and had a beer or two, but I've never been drunk. I don't drive drinking. Like I said, I'll often pour out the second one or something like that. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend that to most people.
So what was you said you had a prior felony, but that's what you didn't go to prison for that, obviously, because that wasn't your first trip in. What was that happened? Because that played an integral role in obviously having a prior when you get when they do this connection the next time with the gun shooting and the shooting up the office.
Yeah, I was on probation in grade school. And my probation officer would come and visit me at the school, and I was on probation. They gave me multiple breaks and didn't send me to prison. And I always got probation. I always did well on that because I knew I had to get past that. Barely made it most of the time. But I had several B&Es, criminal trespassing, vandalism. I beat up a pop machine because it took my money in a golf course one night. And, people were rescuing me and giving me chances, but none of that helped me. And prison didn't help me. I helped myself. It's a neutral environment, like any room you walk in. You determine what that environment's going to be for you. It's not about the peace around you. It's about the peace within you. And that's how I survived that.
Were you doing these things alone, or were you usually doing them with somebody else? Like a breaking and entering? Do you know what I'm asking?
Most often alone.
Yeah.
I remember when I beat up that pop machine, I was like 3:00 in the morning on a golf course, and I beat that machine up till it fell over and pop was squirting out of it. And I'm standing on it, stomping it, trying to get some pop out. And I heard the sheriff's radios behind me, and I turned around and looked, and there's like 10 of them, like 15 paces back. They snuck up on me, and they said, "Get him." Well, I took off running, and the only place to go at this point was in their arms or in the lake and river. They're connected. So I dove in the water. My buddy lived 2 houses down. I swam up under his garage boat, his boat garage, and climbed up on his roof. And he's sitting in his bedroom at 3:00 in the morning listening to Pink Floyd. And there's no stairs up there. And I tap on the upstairs door, and he thought, what? Who is this? And he opens the door, and then I am covered with seaweed, wet. Told him the police are after me. I just beat up a pop machine. I mean, this was typical of me back then.
So you go into prison the first time into Mansfield. What was your attitude at the time? And from there we'll get into what was the eventual trigger that changed things for you, because you said it was something you did. It wasn't, or was there maybe not the prison? Was there a mentor there even in prison? Because I believe you became a mentor, at some point as well. Give me a little bit about that and that process.
Yeah. So the first time I was in prison, Ohio's up to 800 in their numbers now, 800,000. My first number was 144,749. Wyatt Earp had actually been in Mansfield. That's
I didn't know
prison.
That.
Yeah. His life story talks about he was in there for a few weeks. But that number, when you walk in, you've got red stripes down your pants. You're in orientation. They give you all your linen. It's just like the movies. You walk down the range, 6 ranges high. They're screaming at you. You're going to be mine. You're going to this. I'm going to kick your, and on. And you hear, you just try to survive that till your mind can wrap around that you're stuck there. And you didn't get to see no staff like they do today and go to your case manager or get on your J-Pay system or your phone. You got one phone call a year.
Oh, wow.
And if you wanted to play with something, you play with the cockroaches in your cell. I mean, you had weights, you had a few things, but you didn't see any staff but prison guards. You're completely isolated. And then I was shipped to a brand new prison after that old prison. And then I was shipped to a pre-release center. So in 6 months, I was in 3 places. But that didn't change me because, again, I said, well, I realized it was the drugs and alcohol. Who picked me up from the pre-release? The same girl I was living with. She had 2 joints in the ashtray and a 12-pack in the back seat. And I started right back off. And I think I made it about 2 years, maybe, before I got in trouble again. And I started smoking crack cocaine. And I committed a couple robberies. No gun, just strong arm. Never hurt anybody in my life physically, thank God. But the harm emotionally, I'm sure, can last a lifetime. However, then I had 3 robberies that second time, and I got 10 to 25 years. By then, the old Mansfield had closed, and they opened a brand new one right behind it. And I ended up doing only 7. I spent 6 at New Mansfield and 1 at Noble Correctional Institute. But it was at this time that I decided to get my GED. I was talked into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was talked into going to Ashland University there.
Yeah, familiar with that. And
I got my first degree in psychology. And I was very intimidated going to college. It just terrified me because I didn't think I was that smart. But I teach today with the education I have that none of our brains are different. Your smartphone's no smarter than my smartphone. It just depends on if you know how to use it. That's the difference. The cell phone is literally designed after the human brain. You have apps in your brain. Okay, one of those apps is hindsight. Another one's insight. And one is foresight. Well, they're actually one app, but you have this app in your brain that can help you look at these things. Listen, there's no other creature on the planet that can do that. And we don't even use it. You know, that's the sad thing about it. So I went and got my degree in psychology. I graduated from the dean's list. I started teaching, going to all the programs. Then I was asked to teach the programs. And becoming a leader and a teacher, my life started gravitating towards that. And I was released in 1998 on a 10 to 25 after 7 years. And I bought a house. I was working at a treatment center. I was on the weekends. I was driving truck during the week for Fastenal Company. And I ran myself in the ground. I wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't want to go back into that old life, but I wouldn't slow down. I wasn't living the balanced life that I teach about in my book today. And so I literally pushed myself back into relapse. And I did another robbery. I robbed a drug dealer. And I got 4 years in prison for that. In 98. And then when I went to the parole board after 4 years, they gave me 6 more months and an out date. Well, again, I'm back into programs. I'm going to church every Sunday, trying to, understand about this thing called design. And I made it out just shy of 3 years. I went to Ashland, Ohio. I didn't know anybody. I started my own construction company, did really well for a while, but no connections, no people, and lots of money. And I relapsed again because I wasn't taking care of me. We forget about that. We put ourselves first until we get to some place we think we've arrived. And we never arrive. Every day is vigilance for your recovery. Every day is vigilance for what you have in your life today. And the more you have, obviously the more you have to lose, and the better you better protect it. Not less. And I don't know where I got that philosophy of, it's okay now, I'm all right, But yeah, so I did those 4.5, and I moved to Ashland. Then I got, I got arrested for robbing a laundromat, and I got robbery and abduction. And the judge said, I was 45 years old. We're tired of you.
Right.
And you know what? There's something wrong with you. You're 45 years old. You're still out running around smoking crack in your automobile, acting like you're 15. You need some help. And I'm going to give you 16 years to get your life together. And my knees almost buckled. Something snapped in me this time. And I felt my life was over. Nothing could ever become of me. I'll be getting out at 61. And I was sent here to Toledo, the close max prison. Well, I met somebody who was giving out Bibles, and I wrote him, and he wrote me back, and he said, I'll come and visit you, I said, that's great. I have no family. The man became like a father to me. He asked me to write my first book.
Wow.
I told him he was crazy. I don't know how to write a book. I don't know what to write about. I've just started 4 years of seminary, and that was full time. But something inside me said, I can't refuse this. This is here for a reason. I felt it deep inside me that this was a design thing. I'm supposed to do this. And so I started writing, and he bought me a typewriter. I wrote 3 books on a Brother typewriter, not a computer. And you're talking about, the first book was 5 solid years of typing.
Wow.
There's 18 chapters. I wrote each chapter 4 times. So you're looking at 4 times 18. And then the workbook took a year. And my third book took 3 years nonstop. And so when it got published at Marion, they sent a case of workbooks and textbooks into Marion, and they loved it. They flipped out. They gave me open classrooms, whatever you want. And it was just touching lives, changing lives. People's behaviors were changing in weeks. It shocked me. And then they asked me to move out of there and come to the camp, minimum security, and teach it. And I went over there and taught it. And then it branched out to 9 prisons while I was still incarcerated, just by word of mouth of inmates. And still today, it's being taught by inmates all over Ohio. I get pictures, I get drawings, I get in the mail from people who say that I changed their lives. And can I go start this program here or there? I'm like, absolutely. I don't own truth.
Right.
Take it, change lives. I didn't write the books for money. I did it for research, for my own change. And little did I know that the God I call Yahweh had bigger plans for me. And again, I write about design. Listen, I talk about in the book, you can drive out in South Dakota. You can look at all those mountain ranges. It's no design, no patterns, no intention. All of a sudden you come up and there's Mount Rushmore. Well, if I told you, wind, erosion, climate, and right circumstances made that, and it kind of looks like 4 presidents. Well, that would sound ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you start looking at the human body, the brain, our very planet, where it sits in the solar system, and how perfectly placed that is, if you knew what I knew, you see the design behind all of this. Listen, here's how important relationship is. If I ask you, or you ask me, where does the intelligence come that makes my heart beat 1,440 beats per 24 hours? I'd say, well, from your thalamus in your brain. And you say, well, what's that thalamus made of? And I'd say, well, human cells. And you'd say, what's them cells made of? And I'd say, molecules. You say, well, what's the molecules made of? And I say, well, atoms. Well, what's the atoms made of? Subatomic particles. And those subatomic particles are 99.99999% energy. You are intelligent energy. And they're made up of 0.00001% matter. So what I'm saying here is this intelligent energy in subatomic particles comes together and makes a family called an atom. And then the atoms get together and make a molecule. And then the molecules get together and create this unbelievable thing called a human cell. And then this human cells create more human cells. And then the thalamus talks to the heart, completely different cells. Every single thing from the smallest subatomic particle to the greatest, most vast planet in the universe is all in relationship. And you will be as successful, intelligent, happy as you are connected to those same type of people. It won't matter how much money, won't matter how fancy your home is. Listen, all my friends, they're richer than me, they're smarter than me, they got nicer homes than me, but all I have is beautiful, and they inspire me. And like I told them this morning, if you're your own source of courage, you're doomed to fail.
Well, the relationship I want to focus on, because when we started on this, you started talking about, the time where you started seminary, but we didn't. What was it that brought you to God? What brought you to Jesus Christ? Where did that begin? Was that your own search? Was again, someone else involved in that in your life and sharing their experience with you?
Well, I grew up going to church because a lot of the neighbors back in those days seen I was a lone child, and they would often say, "Can we take Larry to church?" So I went to church a lot from 6 years old, and I knew a lot about the Bible as I got older. Not much as I thought I did today. However, so when I got locked up and that judge said 16 years, and I walked back in that prison cell and that door slammed shut, my knees buckled. I went to the floor. 4th time in prison. I'll be 61 when I get out. It's over. And I cried out to him and I said, "You did this." Not mean-wise, but he saved me. I know why he did it, but I said, "You saved me." I said, "Now what are you going to do? Where are we going to go? I need you. I can't make this 16 years without you." And little did I know, I was in that Bible so much in that county jail that an Aryan Brotherhood guy that I was working out with, when I got to 16 years, I threw my Bible in the trash. I was mad 16 years. And he walked over and got it out. He goes, "Larry, what are you doing?" He said, "I'll keep this in my cell till you get your head together." And I was already having an influence on people then. But so when I met Joe and he started coming visiting me, and he asked me, he said, "Would you write a pamphlet? Something I can give the guys that are getting out, like 10 bullet points that'll help them." Well, now with multiple degrees, 4 numbers, I sat down and started to write out this brochure. And I said, "Yeah, no, this is a book. And there's no book that can actually contain all that they need." I actually had to stop short of more of what I wanted to give them, because you got to rebuild your entire life, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, socially, physically, family. Those are your 6 life modules I talk about in the text. It's so Joe started visiting me all the time. Instead of running out of money, God heard that prayer. I never lacked nothing for those 16 years. He put shoes on my feet like a father. He sent me money. He visited me regularly. He introduced me. So he gave a copy of one of the chapters to the judge when I started writing. He knew the judge, or he knew the judge's brother, and a little bit about the judge. So he said, "Jack, would you read this? Let me know what you think. It sounds really good to me." But he goes, "I don't know reentry. And you started the first federal reentry court in Ohio. So he read it. He calls Joe back, my mentor, and says, we got to have lunch. And then he has lunch and he says, I got to go down there and meet Larry. He said, I about fell out of my chair. A federal judge wanted to come meet you. So I get this letter in the mail. Hey, a federal judge wants to come and see you. And he came down there, and I was a nervous wreck. We're in the warden's conference room. And I'm literally shaking inside because every judge I ever talked to didn't have nothing nice to say. But he asked me about my story. He said, I know about the book. He said, that stuff's all correct. Tell me your story. And he kept shaking his head yes, like he'd heard it a million times. And he said, well, you write me directly and I'll write you directly. And I'm like, what? So he ended up endorsing the book. Now he's senior federal judge. And we've been friends for well over a decade. We go bike riding. We have lunch. Just like family, you know. And his clerk, federal agent, is a very close friend of mine. It's like all my friends today are either judges, prosecutors, attorneys. It's like that's
you would have
how
never
ironic,
guessed,
right? No, but you know, they love what I do and they see my sincerity. The judge has had me speaking at federal reentry symposiums in front of whole rooms full of federal judges and prosecutors and doing PowerPoint presentations. And you know, the Rotary Club here at Toledo, all the business owners, I got a standing ovation for the first time in 8 years. They haven't had a standing ovation. And it's just been an incredible journey. I never wrote the book to help anybody else. Originally, it was for me. I'm like discovering. But, you know, God never does one thing at a time. He's an eclectic God. You know, he doesn't make one tomato seed in the tomato. You know, so it's he gave me this gift to speak. Listen, prison, I've learned how to play guitar. I played music for 30 years. I've got multiple degrees from there, years and years of teaching practice, sobriety, maturity, all in a place least likely to be expected. But you can if you choose. And this is what we have to realize. You know, in prison, you wear the same clothes. You can't buy any more property or stuff than I can. You can't get the nicest tech radio. You can't. We all get the same stuff. So basically, it's to make us all unified and remove your individualism. The ironic thing about it is it accentuates your individualism because you're all looking alike in the same environment, same property, but then you see people act completely different. One person feels blessed with what they got. They're thankful they got arrested instead of buried. You know, they used to say, I'm not an inmate, I'm a convict. I even went through that. Listen, I don't use those terms in my book because people glorify them. The truth is, your crime was either a predator or a parasite. And you're not a convict. Those are all socially acceptable, but they're not to the core. And in my workbook, you have to write out your crimes. You have to check the box if you're a predator or parasite or both, because I was both. When I wasn't using and drinking, I was a parasite. I'll manipulate you, lie to you, try to get what I want. When I put the drugs and alcohol in me together, I become a predator. Completely outside of my personality. I don't even like cussing in front of women my whole life. And here I am out robbing people. 2 days before I robbed this last laundromat, I was pricing heavy equipment for a job up in Cleveland, doing my laundry there. And the two young women that worked there knew me by name because I'm a friendly guy. Hey, Larry, how you doing? Next thing you know, I pull out my folding knife, my work knife, and I lay it on the table and I say, give me the money out of the cash register. And they laughed at me. They thought I was kidding. When they seen I was serious, they started crying. And I said, it's okay. I'm not going to do nothing to you. Just go in that back room and stay back there till I'm gone. Well, I ended up writing those two women letters. And it took me weeks because you don't apologize. You don't say you're sorry. You tell them what you recognize your impact on their lives and how they didn't deserve that and were worthy of it, and that I hope they eventually develop trust for society again one day. Well, one of them contacted the prosecutor and said, I don't want him ever contacting us again. But I did not contact them. Joe, he's a pastor too, like me. The federal agents can find anybody, so the judge found where they were. He mailed the letters from his house. I never got those addresses, don't want them. But, there's someone still hurt over what I've done. I can't fix that. But what I can do today is to be my best possible version of me. And every life I come across, I want to inspire and touch.
It sounds a little bit like what you're telling me, and the point that you got to reminds me of, at least in my recovery, and a successful recovery, is that was the period when you got honest with yourself. If you can't get honest with yourself, you're never going to recover, and you would be back there again until you died.
One of the things I talk about in the book, the first principle. So these principles operate like gravity. That's design. Gravity never fails. I can jump off of this roof and know what to expect. I can come all the way out to Arizona and jump off your building and I know what to expect. There is principles, relational principles, that operate the same way. And the first one is a total commitment to truth. I had partial truth. I was a drug addict. I needed to stop it. My life needed to change. But you're right about that defense mechanism. When that judge said 16 years, I was able to accept complete truth. That I was 45 and I had a mentality of a 13-year-old. Listen, the most dangerous person in your community or in prison, I say this in the book, is the person who has adult intelligence, adult physical strength, but adolescent mentality. That's not the serial killer, not the sociopath. It's the everyday person that can 1 minute pull in Kroger's parking lot and want to fist fight you or shoot you because you took his parking spot. You have to be a step ahead of these people and realize that maturity is on a continuum. And what we have in our American society is multi-generational transgression, where the parent passes on the lack to the next child. I was raised this way. I'm raising you this way. And that's why there's 2 chapters in my book on family. What's a healthy family look like? What does a father model that a mother can't model? What happens to the family system and its dynamics when a parent leaves? And when you can understand, I've literally mapped out in my 3rd book 10 predictable steps from childhood to incarceration. You will pass through each of these stages. The first one is the father fracture. Okay? And the second one is unmet needs. Because if you've got a father fracture, you got unmet needs. And then it just spirals into the next several stages that leads to incarceration. So literally, I've developed something that the parole board could use to literally predict the likelihood of reincarceration. And they're doing it wrong by judging it on the past crimes, the seriousness of the crimes, when they should be basing it on maturity and development. 80% of those incarcerated grew up without a father figure. 80% of those incarcerated have drug and alcohol addiction. It's called replacement therapy. It's not correlation. It's causation. And here's the thing. You can enter any first grade classroom in America and say, how many of you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, a fireman, a judge, even a president of the United States? And these second graders, they'll raise their hand with smiles and looks of excitement. If you ask any first grade children in the United States, how many of you want to be an ex-convict, a felon, a drug addict, an alcoholic, an ex-inmate? You won't get anybody raising their hand. So the question that demands an answer is, how do 2.5 million people get incarcerated in the United States when they had this childhood dream? Because we come into this world feeling like we're unrepeatable. Life is magic. And then the world beats it out of you. Mm-hmm. That's not the victim role. That's understanding by looking back at your life and analyzing what happened to you. You're not flawed. You're not a mistake. You're not an accident. That's the default view. You're here because you're meant to be here. And there's something that only Troy can do. Only something Larry can do. And if I don't do it, mm-hmm. it'll never get done, because nobody can do exactly what I'm supposed to do. But what do, Troy? We spend our lives stringing and unstringing our instrument while the song we came to sing remains unsung.
Yes.
You get sober and clean. You develop talents, skills. You find out you're smarter than you realize. Your life starts being invaded with life and success and prosperity. You don't have to chase it. You just live by the right principles and you attract it. We don't attract what we want. We attract what we are.
Yes, we do. So, Larry, let me ask you this. One of the things that brought us together, was health and fitness. Why this time around, or why did health and fitness become important to you? Because we've shared a little bit of that our journey like that in health and fitness with each other, and we're in the top 1% for our age. There's no other way to put it.
We really are.
We're a couple of jacked old men. We're in good shape. But tell me what made that important to you?
I'll tell you what. At 65, to have a six-pack, to be less than probably 7% body fat, and the clients at work, the staff at work, they're like, "Wow, how'd you get like that?" And I tell them, listen. For one, it's 50 years of working out too. Mm-hmm. Okay. I had mentors when I was young. And one of the things I was a professional kickboxer that a lot of people don't know about. So my stepfather was an 8th degree Grand Master. And he used to wake me up 6 a.m. before daylight and take me out and jog. He taught me martial arts. And he was head of the United States Karate Association. And I spent my life in there working out. That's all I did. I quit football. I quit baseball. Mm-hmm. And I won Ohio State championships. I opened my own school. Then I went professional. And I lost my last pro fight by doing cocaine before I went in the ring. And it looked like I threw the fight. Well, that just verified all my life what I said I was.
Right.
Because I would break boards and people would bring the pieces of wood up to me and want my signature on them. But that didn't fill my emptiness. That didn't make me feel worthwhile and valuable. That's what I need people to understand who are listening to this. You're not going to out-achieve your lack of self-worth. That has to be an innate understanding that comes through relationship. And I don't have to be built. I don't have to be smart. I don't have to be super talented. I am a worthwhile, valuable human being. And so one of the most important factors that I created for the book is integrated life. Life is two things: developmental and integrated. Those are huge aspects on our development. So integrated means the 6 life modules: spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, family, and social, all interact. That's integrated.
Mm-hmm.
If I grow spiritually, I grow mentally. I should grow emotionally if it's healthy spiritual development. Often it's not. It's too religious. It's not teaching true development. So I understood how central all the other aspects of my life, relational, mental, work performance. Today, I'm ecstatic that I look like I look like, but it's about thriving and passion and living like I'm 40, not waking up with aches and pains and no energy to complete tasks. I'm living a second life here. It's
Yes,
like brand new, but yeah, and I tell the men in the gym, listen, don't come in here and kill yourself. Don't focus on just big muscles. Make this a way of life, and you'll meet people like I met you.
Yes.
Life thrive. So the other 6 areas will thrive right within that physical training. So it's a valuable, important part that if you have less energy, you're more depressed. Your perceptions are different. Self-confidence different. So it adds to perception, energy, vitality, longevity. One of the things I tell people, the most important nutrient in your body is water. Your water determines how well your brain operates, how well you think, your energy levels, muscle contraction, and bowel movement, heartbeat. Everything is water. 8-ounce glasses of water at a bare minimum. I drink twice that a day. So yeah, training to me is I've matured into it as a healthy way of life. I get upset with religion where they say the body's not important. It's just a temple. Well, you can't carry your temple.
Yes.
And that's all in scripture, So what I went in and I dug out all these life principles, practical application. What are they saying to us to do with these things right here, right now? And what can we expect? What can I grasp from these stories that applies it to practical life? Because if I tell you about David and Goliath, and I don't tell you how that applies to today, then I'm missing the whole point of being a pastor. It should give you, one of the things I say in the 3rd book is true developmental maturity and spiritual development are one and the same. So if you're sitting in a church pew and your life ain't changing, you're not doing something. And that's the work involved that scripture tells us to do. Let me give you an example. We get into trouble and God's like, get me out of this, God, get me out of this. No way. Because he loves you too much. Listen, if I want patience, I used to tell the men in the prison, I'm going up to the microwave, and I was ahead of this next guy. And he blurts out, because of his lack of maturity and his impatience, his sense of entitlement, his sense of me first, his sense of I, self, me is all that matters. I could end up in a confrontation. He's wrong. I'm next. But instead, I exercise the gut-wrenching application of patience and maturity. It's hard at first. I want to tell this guy, that's I'm next, and whatever it takes, I'm next. But when you do it one time, the next time it's easier, and the next time it's easier. So you're going to grow, and you're going to struggle through every principle of development. But here's the key, Troy. The third book ties it together. Life is suffering. Buddha said that. Yeshua Jesus said, in this life you will have suffering. And he was called the suffering servant. So life might be 70% struggle and suffering. But we stay in there for that 30% because it's so damn beautiful. And it's just incredible to apply the principles in your life directly and receive the growth that it offers us, and that's discipleship. And true discipleship would really be teaching you the things I'm teaching in this book. What this book teaches people is how to go back, make sense of where you came from. So you're not flawed. Your life's not against you. Make an understanding of this, and it offers what I need to do to have any kind of life I want.
Right.
It's not magic. It's age-old principles, but I say them in a way that really impacts you, that makes you say, I relate to that. That's what matters. On the outside, we might all be different. Might be different colored skin, different cities, come from a different background. One of the things I do in my class is I make them all write down 3 things they have in common in orientation class. Because they look around and they see all the difference: age, race, background, wealth. And I give them 20 after that. And I could give them a lot more, because below all, we've been trained to think of division. And we're taught that very early in school. For one thing, example, there's no such thing as race. That's a complete social construct.
That's true. Yes.
Neuroscience teaches that there's 4 genes that make up skin color. It's 30% influenced by environment and 70% genetic transfer. And that if I needed a heart transplant, Leo might be a better kidney transplant for me than you. So there's no genetic difference. But if we create social constructs of division, the first question is always, okay, which race is superior? The Bible says there's one race, the human race, one blood, Acts 17. Okay? And when we start to get rid of these divisions, we start to enter unity and start looking for commonalities. But we're trained to look for that division. And we're given falsehoods to do that. That's the tragic thing behind it. So we need to go back, challenge our paradigm of who we are, what we become, what we want, what do we really want from life, and then we start applying the proper principles, and we notice that. And listen, they don't want to do this because it doesn't happen overnight. People want what I call in the book quick fixes and shortcuts. Path of least resistance, human nature. However, the things that everybody listening to this podcast need in their lives, it takes time. T-I-M-E. Things I must earn. And they also come through another type of time. T-I-M-E. Thoughtful, intimate, meaningful experiences. That's what transforms people. Your time, things I must earn, and thoughtful, intimate, meaningful experiences with other human beings. And slowly, if you stay the course, your life will change. But there's no magic book, no magic wand. But back to the suffering thing. You can choose to suffer fruitlessly, I talk about. And I'm not learning from my suffering. I'm not gleaning anything from this. I just keep suffering it. Or I can choose to go the good life, and I'm still going to suffer just because of life. But it'll be fruitful suffering. I gleaned something out of it. 28 and a half years in prison. And I gleaned more from them 28 and a half years than I probably will from the rest of my time out here. It's a choice.
Yes. The book is Reentry Realities. And Larry, I'd have to say after our discussion, it's geared towards people that are obviously are in prison, but I think that it would be terrible to put that limit on it, because so many people can really benefit from this that have never been to prison. And I just wanted to mention that part, that it's similar. It really reminds me of the learning and life principles that I got and that I should have learned before, but I didn't, that I got when I was in recovery. And, so many, we say, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm, in some ways we become grateful that we had that to some extent, because then we get this path and learn how to actually live life, because that's what it's about, more than it is just putting the cork in the bottle, which, that's just the very first step. And then after that, it's learning to live life, what we call living life on life's terms, which is what I hear you saying. And I just wanted to make that this is not, we don't want to limit people like this.
It's amazing that you say that, because many of the people that endorse the book say this should be in every grade school. It should be in every high school. This is the developmental things that people need to learn to mature. Listen, it's one thing getting out of prison and getting on your feet. A lot of people struggle with that. That's called pro-social skills. Mm-hmm. Most people struggle with the psychosocial skills of dealing with stress, boundaries, life management, and pro-social skills will get you on your feet and get you standing. It's the psychosocial skills that'll keep you standing. Okay, and so it does need to be in every school.
Yes.
One of the things I talk about is what is freedom? Freedom is a process developed over time through a series of right choices and sound decisions made within the socially acceptable ranges of society. That's the definition of freedom. What is liberty? Liberty's not the same. That's the problem people make when they walk out of prison. I'm free. No, you're not. You've been turned loose. Listen, let me tell you what, the state can turn you loose, but they can't set you free. Freedom is an inside job. Well, liberty is merely options. The options don't represent freedom. only the potential to attain it. Freedom belongs to the man who chooses the right options. So you gain freedom through the proper application of your liberty. I have a driver's license today. Does that mean I can crack a beer and go get in my truck? No, it's against the law. And I'm risking everything. Before, I never thought of that when I got a DUI when I was 44. But today, those things matter to me. And it takes maturity. You have to mature out of that. The book covers psychosocial passions, psychosocial stages of reentry, the psychosocial stages of recidivism, what stages lead back to prison. You're going to choose one of two paths. And I have a diagram in there showing that. What does authentic manhood look like? What the human design model, how to live your life in a management situation, the principles of acclimation. What acclimation is just a fancy for word saying, how do I become a part of society? Not just my shoes are at the front door, I live at this address, I'm back in the community. Now, what are you offering the community? Are you paying taxes? Are you a good neighbor? Are you a role model in your community? We have many more responsibilities than just not committing a crime.
True.
Doing your prison time is not paying your debt to society. Paying your debt to society is going into prison and making the necessary changes to come out and be a different person. That's paying your debt, not your time. I list
That
10
makes
ways
sense.
to return to prison in this book. And none of them are about crime. It's about spend as much time as you can watching television. Pretend you need no significant change in your life and just go to programs for the parole board. Pretend you're the victim. And I list all 10 ways of, if you live by them, you're already on your next number.
Yeah.
If nothing changes, nothing changes.
That's for sure.
And the only thing that's constant is change.
What I'd say, Larry, is this is a true blueprint, and this is just really excellent. And I really think that appreciate your time and the ability to go through this. And we can do it again sometime. How can people connect with you, Larry?
They can contact me through my Gmail, I guess, right now.
All right.
At Larry Thompson 1160 at gmail.com. I have a site for this book, but I just bought this home and I haven't had time to plug into it. I want to start putting things like this on there.
Sure.
And
we'd like
doing
you
weekly
to.
speaking and things like that.
Yeah.
But anybody that's interested in contacting me or starting this program or inviting me to do a presentation. See, what I do today is I train the trainer. I train the staff for a week to teach. I use everything from social neuroscience, psychology, to my experience, to everything involved. And I train this staff of how to teach the program. And then I go back in for speaking engagements or graduations. And,
Sure.
I have to keep reminding these people. They look at me like I'm some celebrity or I'm some super intelligent person. And all I can tell them is, I'm no different than you in my potential. You just have to get the drugs and the alcohol out of your life and allow that stuff it'll come up on its own. Problem people think is I have to start right away helping other people. Get yourself together and then help somebody else. Matter of fact, here's what happened to me. I got my life together, started understanding where I come from. Naturally, I had input to other lives. And that developed into where I'm at today. So that will emerge on its own. Get you together. You don't got to chase none of that.
That's a great place that's a great place to end it. Larry, once again, appreciate you so much. And
Likewise.
we'll do it again. This was just I just want to say thank you so much, for your contribution.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Yeah. Well, it is for me too. I think a lot of you, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Well, maybe next time we can talk about, I'd like to discuss the history of Christianity sometime.
All right. I'm in for that. We will do that.
Got some good history for you there. That's shocking. I spent 30 years of researching manuscripts, and I worked in the library for years. So my third book is written on a very strange marriage, neuroscience and scripture.
That sounds
Believe
like
it
a
or
good
not,
place to come
they
back
go
to.
hand in hand.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you
I
very much,
appreciate
Larry.
you.
Yes.
Thank you, Troy.
Back at you, brother. And this is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. Have a good one.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back.